Hello there, Kansas City. Stephen St. John here with another episode of Hot Mic with SSJ. And as always, we thank our wonderful sponsor, Patrick Carter. Check him out at kcfarmersagent.com. Click Contact Me, or you can text Hot Mic to 913-248-8861. Thank you to our good friend, Patrick Carter of Farmers Insurance. The special guest this week, our regular guest, my dad, Steve St. John Sr., who has made his way out to Overland Park, where he says the worst drivers anywhere in the area exist. You learned that from your father, is that right? And
correct,
you
yes.
believe that to be true?
I do.
All right. So there you go, Overland Park drivers. Get out of my dad's way. But thank you for coming in here today to have another episode of Hot Mic with SSJ. And so we've talked about a variety of things. We talked about your trip to Leavenworth back in the day and some of the things that led up to your departure. We had an episode, the very popular jailhouse nachos that you prepared here in studio. And so we're going to do something a little different. And as you pointed out, when we talked about your trip away, we kind of left it off at Rochester, and we can move on from there on another episode because I want to kind of switch things up. And so today we are going to kind of follow up on your appearance on the Border Patrol when on Veterans Day you called in, right? And we talked to you and wished you a happy Veterans Day. And you talked a little bit about your time in the Navy during the Vietnam War. And we spent about 15 or 20 minutes, but I received a lot of feedback from that and people that said, boy, this would make for a good episode. We'd like to do a little bit more in depth. And I really have never talked to you too much about that. In my lifetime, you've given me some of the nuts and bolts, but I want to get a little bit more in depth of when you were in the Navy, if that's all right. Well, it's going to have to be. You agreed to be on the. It would be weird if you said no now.
Yeah, I'm here.
You're on the. Boy, you seem so enthusiastic about it as well. All right, let's start. You grew up. I want to get a little bit of background into your childhood and who you are leading up to your decision to go away, right? So where did you grow up in the Kansas City area?
Rosedale.
Is it true they called you the Rosedale Reaper? That was a fighter that
that's good,
I used to ring announce for, but you could be, right? You've lived up to it. And so where at specifically? Because I don't even know. Like, what was your what street? Where did you live at in Rosedale?
Thompson.
You was on Thompson or Rose?
Right off Mission Road.
So for people, so right off Mission Road, like what's there now? What would what's the nearest?
Apartment buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like what's it by that people
Rosedale Park.
Okay, so it's by Rosedale Park. And you told me the story about you went sledding down a big hill one time and you damn near got
riding a bicycle.
Going down a bicycle.
Down Mission Road, and the chain came off.
And then what happened?
I went about 60 feet in the air. It felt like it.
Right.
When back then, Mission Road went straight down, and you either had to go right or left. There wasn't alternatives like there is now, so I had to.
So you're on your bike and the chain breaks. How old are you?
Not very old.
You're hauling ass down there. Well, give me an idea.
Yeah,
Were you a teenager?
like maybe 9.
9 years old. You're on your bike.
Yeah.
You're having I'm trying to picture a young Steve St. John Sr. on his bicycle, pedaling away, and then the chain breaks. And it's your ass. You're going down
Shit Creek.
Right. And so then what happened? So how did you get out of that one? So what did you hit?
I had to try to stop it, so I hit a curb and went way up in the air and came down, and I started talking real high pitched. I must have hit my nuts or something.
Well, that's a whole other story.
That lasted for a day, so
Did you have to go to the doctor or the hospital or anything? Was there a real injury or just?
You couldn't. You had to be dead to go to the hospital back then.
Well, that seems like that would be too late. But you just walked it off and you were all right. Now, were you supposed to be in school? Was this during a weekend or what was going on here?
I was just supposed to be on my bike where I was.
All right. Time out. Spit your gum out because I can hear it. You're chewing the gum.
What's that?
Spit your gum out because I can hear you chewing the gum with the microphone. We can edit that, right? That's what I do. Okay. All right, good. All right. So, 1, 2, 1. So you were supposed to be on your bike. So did you? But I mean, did you get in trouble? Did you breaking the chain of the bike or anything?
No, I got in trouble with myself.
Right. So okay, so take me back. So you lived in the house on Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Who lived in the house when you as a child?
Oh, both my brothers and I think my sisters had already moved away.
Right. But you had your parents, and but did you have a grandfather?
Yeah, my grandfather and my grandmother lived with us.
Okay, so tell me this. I don't know anything about
I'm
this. So
sorry.
tell me.
Back then, you didn't put them in homes. They lived with you.
Okay, grandfather and grandmother on what side?
My mom's dad and my dad's mom.
And so your mom's dad was James Kirk?
Yeah.
Like, and he was he in Star Trek? Is that the same?
Could have been, yeah.
Okay, well. And so it said James Kirk, and he was from Ireland?
Yes.
And how tall was he?
Oh, he's almost 7 foot.
Now what happened to us then? Why? I don't understand.
I don't know.
I'm 5'8". You're 5. What are you 5'6"? What?
5'6".
That seems excessive. Almost 7 feet tall, and we get none of it.
Pretty tall.
So really, he was. I mean, were you? So tell me about him. You've never really told me anything
the
about
Olympics.
him.
He was a.
He was in the Olympics.
Yeah, he was in the Olympics.
For what country?
Ireland.
What did he do?
Well, probably drank, but
I don't think you could drink in the Olympics. I mean, that wasn't a.
He was a hurdler, I think. I'd have to look all that. I never kept track of none of that stuff.
I'm 49.
Yeah.
Why are you telling? And I do a sports talk show. At what point do you think you could have told me my great grandfather was in the Olympics? Is that?
Well,
I feel like that could have come up.
Probably should have come about, I guess. But
maybe during the Olympics.
I could tell you more. What I seen was when he was getting real sick, and the priest come from Holy Name up to talk to him, and he lived upstairs. As a real narrow staircase, and they both got drunk and fell down the staircase, and we had a hell of a time untangling them.
So the priest,
and my grandfather fell down the staircase drunk.
Who do you blame there, the priest or your grandfather? Who do you think?
Well, the priest brought it over.
What? So it's blessed wine, you would hope, holy wine or anything.
Blessed whiskey.
Right? Okay, blessed. Well, you could bless the whiskey, I'm sure. And so that was. How old were you when that happened?
No. 10 years old, maybe. So
up until how? So when did he pass away? He lived. You lived with your.
I'm trying to think when he did pass away.
You were born in 1952, just to give a frame of reference to people. So then he was at least alive until you're 10, 11, 12 years old or so. Yeah. So I mean, so you have a good recollection of him.
Fair recollection.
Right. And so was he? What was he? Was he an imposing figure?
Oh
right?
Yeah, he was a big man. Yeah.
Did you talk to him a lot? Were you close with him?
Yeah, I talked to him. Well, once in a while, I threw a firecracker under that tin chair that he sat on outside. Got a rise out of him.
You know. Boy, I did that to my grandfather. I don't know if you remember when that happened. When
I did
over the 4th of July party at the Zuniga's house right down the street from where they lived on North 79th Street. And that did not end well for me.
No.
I can promise you that. But so did you know, were you aware like then? Did you ask him about the Olympics? Did you talk to him about?
A little bit. Yeah, he had some medals and stuff. I don't know whatever happened to him, but
I'm flabbergasted by this, and this is just coming up now.
Well, my older sister was kind of the historian, and she's gone now, so
that's Pat.
Pat.
Okay.
Yeah. I really didn't keep track of anything.
But he and so do you know how old he was when he came to the United States from Ireland?
No idea.
But it was so I do remember seeing a picture of your mom and him, and he was dressed like to the nines in the suit and the hat and everything else. And so and then your other grandparent that lived with you, who was. That was my dad's mom. Okay, your dad's mom, and so that
Ona. Her name was Ona.
And so where was she from? Was she?
I'm not sure. Really not.
Right.
I mean, she used to always take us kids on the bus up to Minnesota Avenue and shop, and I definitely remembered her.
Really? So what are some of the other things? I've never heard anything about her either. Like,
she was a real nice woman, and we had it. Well, the only heat we had in the house was like a big stove. And I never forget, she used to take a quilt and put it up there on top of the stove until it almost burnt, and bring it in and put us on us boys to go to bed.
How old were you? Just
10.
Okay. And so you said us boys. How many?
Me and my brother Jim.
Okay.
And Chuck, we never let him sleep in the same bed.
So Chuck didn't get a chance to take advantage of the warm blanket, right?
No.
And how many sisters did you have?
I had 1, 2, 3 sisters.
Okay, right. And so one of them is still living. So you had a big
Kathy.
Right.
She's down in Alabama.
But so that's a big family, and then you had the parents, and then you had 2 grandparents.
Yeah.
And so then where you said your grandfather then lived up the
Upstairs,
stairs. And so where did your grandmother live?
Downstairs, next to bedroom next to us. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so then tell me about your parents, because like for me, I have a little bit of a recollection of my grandma and grandpa St. John, and I don't know why, but do you remember when I was a little boy I would call grandma and grandpa on my mom's side big grandma and grandpa, and then I'd call your parents little grandma and grandpa, and I don't know why, because my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side, they were not big, they were like five or five, six, I don't know, that's how I called them that or whatever, but and they both passed away when I was really young, and so I don't remember a whole lot about them, but like what do you remember? So Ed, okay, and that's
Florence,
right, and my son Phil, he's named Philip Edward, and so the Edwards after your father, and so what did my grandfather Ed do for a living?
He had a bar for a while, and then
where was the bar at?
It was down Southwest Boulevard and Mission Road.
And so when would this have been? What?
Oh, it was, I don't know, during his younger days, but
before you were born?
No.
Oh, so you were still okay.
After.
So what kind of bar? Just a bar?
Just a bar.
Okay. Did you ever?
I'd go in there. Yeah.
Were you supposed to, or would you show up in there?
Who would stop me? I mean,
you would think maybe him or no?
Back then, I mean, you could have kids in a bar. It ain't like it is now.
Was it a wild bar? Like what are we talking about
just
here?
A bar, you know, bar to drink and.
And was he also the bartender, or did he just run it, or how did that?
Both, you know. And then.
And so like I'm trying to think like reference that. Where would it have been? Like what? Like close to what now? Like
Southwest Boulevard and I-35.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So he had a bar there, and then what else you said?
And he also was the general manager of Borden's Dairy. Remember the cow, Borden's cow?
Sure.
Elsie?
Okay.
Yeah, he did. That was up on 31st Street. He was there for many, many years.
Right. And he had the bar while he was doing this
while
as
he
well.
had that, yeah.
Okay. And so what about my grandmother?
She didn't work. She was a homebody.
Well, but that's, taking care of kids and take care of the family, and that's a lot of work too. And so when did my grandfather, when did your dad pass away? I was alive for both, so it was after 1972.
It was in the 70s.
Right.
Like I said, my mind didn't. He passed away first.
I was young. I was very young. I remember coming home from school, and I would have been, I believe, in the second or third grade when your mother passed away, when Grandma passed away. Because I remember I came home. I remember Mom said, "Hey, go give your dad a hug. He's upset his mom passed away." And that's the only memory that I have there. And so why didn't I know that he had a bar? Probably because you didn't tell me.
I don't know.
How else would I not know?
A lot of things I just don't think about. I guess I don't know.
But so you lived, is it the same house the whole time you're a kid? Always in the same house?
we moved once to over on Troost.
Okay. Well, how old
5312 Troost.
Oh, so you remember that address?
Yeah, I do.
So how old were you when you lived at 5312 Troost?
We were young because I left home when I was 14, so I had to be less than that.
Okay, so you left home when you were 14 years old. Will you tell me anything about that? Like, where did you go? You were 14.
I got an apartment over on in the northeast area, over on 9th and Benton.
And let me take this opportunity to thank our good friend Patrick Carter of Farmers Insurance, who helps make this podcast, Hot Mic with SSJ, possible each and every week. And if you miss having a local insurance agent, if you're sick of using a website or 800 number to ask questions or price scenarios for insurance, you don't have to deal with a Flo or a Jake. You've got a Patrick Carter that is a local agent that supports the same community you do. Choose Patrick Carter of Farmers Insurance. All you have to do is go to kcfarmersagent.com, click Contact Me. You won't contact me, but you'll contact Patrick Carter. If you contact me, then there are problems with their website. You could also text Hot Mic to the number 913-248-8861. Talk to Patrick Carter and tell him you love Hot Mic with SSJ. How does a 14-year-old get an apartment?
Just have money on you.
So you just got an apartment when you were 14 years old.
Yeah.
What did you do for money?
I worked. I went to work for UMKC Dental College down at 10th and Truce back then. It's up on Holmes or something.
And how old were you?
14.
So what did you do?
Worked in maintenance, just doing whatever needed to be done. And they didn't care back then.
So they weren't checking birth certificates, or
no,
did
they
you
could
just
care
show up there?
less. No.
See, it's very difficult for me to imagine you as a kid. So were you like one of these? Were you clearly very mature when you're 13 or 14 years old, right?
Yeah.
I mean, was this overwhelming to you? I mean,
well, because I had a brother that was an older brother,
right?
and he was always in trouble. I mean, always in trouble. I remember when he was
how much older are you talking about?
Probably 5 years older.
Okay,
than me, 6
so you're
years.
seeing this. He's always in trouble.
Always in trouble. So my dad spent a lot of money on him to keep him out of jail, this and that. And I thought, shit, there ain't nothing left to go around. I might as well go get my own, And I really felt that way,
right?
Because he was always in trouble. And even when he went in the Army, he stole a Jeep and come home. I mean, this guy was always...
Came home in the Jeep?
Oh, yeah.
Or stole the Jeep?
No, stole the Jeep and drove
Where was
home.
he when he stole the Jeep?
In Fort Polk, Louisiana.
He's in the Army, he steals the Jeep, and then comes back to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Well, you're just saying that like it's like that happens all that.
I mean, what can I say?
But he pulls up, just comes to the house in the Jeep?
Yeah, I thought he was on an assignment or something.
Is that what he said? Like, I'm on assignment?
I know, yeah.
How was that resolved? I mean, did they show up
to the brig at that time?
Right.
And then before that, when he was a kid, when he was just in his teens, he or even before that, he had a bottle of Coke, and he's standing by a mailbox and getting ready to pour it down the mailbox, and the mailman said, "You better not do it. You'll go to jail." And he bloop, 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 poured it on down. And he went to jail. He went to federal prison when he was a teenager. They had the Teen Act then, and they sent him to Colorado.
How old was he then?
Oh, shit, he was young. He wasn't even 16.
So you're seeing all this.
Yeah.
Now be honest.
Okay.
Did you get in a lot of trouble? 13, 14 years old.
No,
you weren't.
No.
You weren't causing problems.
No, I just wanted to get away from that stuff, so that's why I left and went to work. And
so there were things you wanted to get away from and just break off. So you go and we're at Northeast
9th and Benton.
Okay, so you're living at 9th and Benton, and you're 14 years old. And I know that you ended up going into the Navy when you were 17. So then what happens from 14 to 17 when you're on your own?
I worked at the dental college, and then I got a better apartment at 10th and Benton. I actually moved a block down.
Okay.
But, I always, worked and made money, so.
So then, so 1952, you're 14, so that's 1966 when you leave. And then you're working until, 1969 or so.
About that.
So then when do you decide, or how do you decide, okay, I'm going to join the Navy? What propelled you to do this?
I had a guy, an older black gentleman that worked down there named Willie Henderson, real nice guy, and he was like a stepdad to me, and he used to tell me, he said,
Willie Henderson.
Henderson, and he said, I used to live in San Diego, and he says, you really ought to go in the Navy. He said, you'll see a lot, you'll be able to become a man and this and that, and he said, you'll love it. So he actually talked me into going.
Okay, so did your dad serve in the military at all?
No.
Okay, so your only exposure was your brother in the military, in the Army, and stealing the Jeep and bringing it back. And so before
Sad sack.
before you talked to Willie, a very influential person in your life at that point, had you at all had these ideas like, okay, when I get a little bit older, I'm going to join the military?
Not really.
So you hadn't thought about that.
No.
That didn't sound good to you. So he talks about living in San Diego, and you ought to think about now. Had he been in the military?
He had lived out there
and
worked around the Navy, so he knew all about it. I mean, he knew everything there was to know about the Navy.
And this obviously was quite a time in history to be joining the military.
Oh yeah,
Right. This,
yeah. Not everybody was joining back then.
well, there was a draft. They were coming after
Heading
people
towards
to get in.
Canada, I guess.
Right. But so, and you were not of age. You were 17.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
And so then let's start there. Take me through the process. You say, okay, I'm going to join the Navy. So what do you do? Where'd you go?
I went down and joined. Back then, it was down on Broadway. I joined, and of course, they was welcome me with open arms.
And did you have to show again?
No,
there's
could
no birth
care
certificate
less.
or whatever
No,
else. You show up, and you were supposed to be 18. You had to be 18.
Supposed to be 18, but
And
I
so you-
fudged the deal. Even today, it says on 17 on my DD 214. I mean, it never was corrected.
So you were 17.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you go in, and how did you pick the Navy?
Well, from listening to him, you know
Okay.
how it, all that. And,
You didn't consider the Army or anything else. It was the Navy.
No, I figured the Navy was best for me because I wanted to go see things and, rather than just a trench.
So you go down to Broadway. You join the Navy.
Join the Navy.
And so then from that day that you go to the office, how much time is it before you actually?
1 week.
So what did you do in that 1 week? Did you
1
get
week,
after it?
just-
Did you have?
No, I just did my normal thing, and then the day they was going to take us, they took us down at Union Station and fed us. I think they fed us pigeon, but they said it
Pigeon?
was chicken.
Well,
See all those pigeons flying around, and you think it's pigeon,
oh
but
boy.
then they send us to San Diego.
But so did you go and talk to your mom and dad? Did you tell them, hey,
No.
I'm going to the Navy?
No,
You didn't even tell them?
no. Well, I think they got back to them that I'll see you later.
Right. And so
why would I talk to them? I was out on my own anyway.
right. Or just to tell them, hey, I'm going to the Navy. No, I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. I mean, and so you didn't feel like you were leaving anyone behind.
No,
You were ready because
no,
that's a concern for
no.
people, whatever. So you were ready to go.
Right.
Okay. So you go to Union Station. Apparently you're eating pigeon. So I'm not sure if
I thought
whatever.
it was.
That's-
I don't know
we'll
what
go
it
with
was.
it. And so there you're at. So then what happens? Because take this because I have no
They
idea
put us
any of the
on
details.
bus and they did take us to the airport, and I take that back. My sister didn't know I was going. Mary,
Okay.
that was married to Danny,
Right.
and she knew I was going, so because she was kind of close to me, and
Was she how close in age was she older?
yeah, she was
Okay,
older.
she's older.
Yeah.
Your older sister Mary, she knows, and she's
Yeah.
going down there to see you off.
Yes.
Okay, and so you go to the airport,
Go to the airport.
and you're with how many?
Oh, probably.
It's a plane load, right? Or
Yeah, probably 50 guys.
all right. So what in your mind? What are you getting into? Like, what do you think about this? There's obviously a war going on.
First time I've been on a plane, so I was happy for that.
Had you been out of Kansas City?
Not really.
What's the furthest you had been away from Kansas City up to that point?
Nowhere really.
No
I mean,
place.
to be honest with you.
So are you excited? Are you
I'm
scared?
excited, no.
You're not
I'm
scared
ready.
at all?
No, not at all.
Have you ever been scared about?
I didn't have
this,
enough sense to be scared.
This is a serious question. Have you ever been scared of anything?
Not really, because I just, figure whatever happens, happens.
And see, that's why, like, when I talk about you, that's one of the things that I admire most about you. That you've never in my time in my life, I've never seen you show any fear. Whereas I am pretty much afraid of everything.
No,
And so,
that's not true.
but I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
know what you're saying.
And so it's like there have been times like, fuck, I wish I could not be afraid or not show this fear or just have this, and that's but it's always been good because like I've told people, one of the things that's been most impactful for me about you is when I have been scared, whether it was a kid or a teenager, as an adult, or about whatever it is, if you're with me, then I'm not.
Yeah. Well,
Then
that's
I'm
what
not-
it's supposed to be.
Then I'm not scared. Then I
Yeah.
was, and it wasn't just, we always, hey, my dad will beat up your dad.
Yeah.
For me, it was true. But, even now when I'm nervous about something or I've been scared about making a decision or anything, if you're there, then you have that influence on me, like, okay.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes you didn't give me the option to be scared. There's nothing to be scared about. Come on. And
Yeah.
you knew what to say, right?
Yeah.
Whereas my mom would put a wide variety of doubt in my mind about everything that could possibly happen in the world. Like, oh, if you go outside, you might get hit by a bus. Like, I just want to go outside. So, right? Am I wrong?
That's true.
That's exactly
absolutely.
Right. There could be an earthquake.
Yeah.
So you're on the plane, right? Where do you go?
San Diego.
So you land in San Diego, and then what happens?
We get off the bus, and all hell broke loose, And
we're going to be showing I'm going to have you send some pictures to Ben, and we're going to be showing some pictures as we talk about this on YouTube for people. And again, like and subscribe on YouTube if you want to see the pictures, or you can just listen on Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your favorite podcast. And so you get there. Now and I'm not having fun with you because we have the same hairstyle now. You had a full head of hair.
Yeah.
You had a Elvis-like head of hair, right? Mm-hmm. And so were you apprehensive about, did they shave it all off? What was that?
Yeah, they shaved it all off.
Was that hard to do with
No.
logo that you didn't care? Right? I mean, this is the 50s and 60s. I mean, hey, right?
Well, they had the butch wax and stuff. Yeah.
So you go in there, and so tell me what happens when you get to San Diego. What are all the things that you have to do?
Of course, the drill sergeant, he's yelling at you and all that shit from the time you get off the bus until.
Was it like the movies? Was he on your ass?
Yeah, they yell and scream and shit,
So like, what are you thinking then? Like, are you like, oh shit, what have I got?
I get into here?
So then you're doubting yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so it's bad. And so how long are you there? Like, what do you tell me what you're going through?
I think it's probably, I don't know, I don't even remember, 6-8 weeks, somewhere like that.
Give me an example of an average day of what you would do.
Well, you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you start marching, and it is cold in San Diego at that time in the morning. And then it rolls into breakfast, and then you eat breakfast, and then go march and eat lunch and march and just, target practice, just something every day packed.
Are you learning things?
Yeah,
what are some of the things you learn, like target practice, obviously?
Practice, how to follow orders and
were you good at that before then?
Not really.
So that was that.
But the main thing is, and people may believe it or may not believe it, and if I ever get the tape, and you can probably look it up, there was an admiral, a famous admiral, that spoke at a deal where all the officers were graduating.
Okay.
And he was a Vietnam veteran. This guy was the man, and he spoke. He said, if you start the day
making your bed,
yeah, he said you'll go a long way.
I have seen that,
and that is true. And he was a man's man, and I tell you, when you make your bed and look at it and go, wow, that's the first thing I've done, and it's right, and anybody can check it, I'm good to go. And he was right. It sounds simple, but it's really not. It's something that you instilled in you, that you knew you had to do, and it's a good way to start the day. I do that today.
But see, so you're learning this discipline.
Yeah.
Would you have considered yourself a disciplined person before you got into the Army?
To a point.
So, but was this hard for you? Like you're describing, getting up at 3 a.m., doing the marching.
Not really.
Because some people that'll break them, right?
I never. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've never had anybody teach me anything like that, and I welcomed it because I didn't have anybody in my life to teach me stuff like that. But yeah, it broke a lot of people.
But for you, was there ever a point during that you're like, fuck this, I'm gone. I can't. This is too much for me. You never got to that point. What was the hardest thing about that time of the basic training and those things? Was it just the getting up every day, or did you handle everything pretty well?
I handled everything pretty well. I mean, I just did what I was told, and I think that if you fall in that realm to just do what you're told, and you're not going to have a problem.
Well, let's be honest. There's some people that are cut out for the military more than others, and clearly you were.
Yeah. Okay,
and so during this time, are you paying attention at all to what's going on?
Oh yeah,
in the war and following? Like, what are you thinking about that?
I'm thinking whatever happens, happens. I mean, it is, because there's guys over there right now that are back then that's losing their lives and doing what they're supposed to do. So why can't we? And
so for people that don't, like, you've always been very patriotic, and you're very respectful of you're part of the military, but you love this country, and you in talking to you a little bit off the podcast, you said that was something that you wanted to do. You wanted to go and help, and you wanted to be a part of, right? And so that was something that you took a lot of pride in. Oh, there he's showing the Ben. He's got the American flag ring, which boy, oh boy, I don't know where you get that one at, but describe the ring for us there as a jeweler.
It's a flag with stars, sapphires, and rubies.
Have you showed the camera right there behind you? Now let's be honest. Is the imprint of that ring ever been on anyone's face? No. Are you sure? No. I beg to differ. So that's not what I've heard. But it's a patriotic punch if it ever happens.
It is.
Okay, so then you're there, and so then tell me. So you said 6, 7, 8 weeks or so. Then what happens after that?
Well,
you graduate basic training.
You graduate, and then it's time to go home for leave. And you go home for, I don't know, maybe a week or two. And
where did you go?
I didn't go anywhere. They asked me if I wanted to stay and work out in the desert at the target practice deal. I said, yeah, I might as well go. What was I going to do? I didn't have a girlfriend or nothing at home. So I stayed. I just skipped the leave.
But everyone else, or most everyone else went home.
Yeah,
okay,
except me and another couple of guys.
Right. So you stay there, and so did you stay in San Diego?
Yeah. They had a barracks with a beer machine in there and everything. I mean, it was good.
So then, a beer machine.
Yeah.
So you. So then, what are you doing during you're just target practice and drinking beer,
pull targets and stuff, and help. That's all.
So when was San Francisco a part of this deal?
That was before. That was
before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait. So rewind. I need to get this time. For once I need to get this timeline straight. Mm-hmm. So when did San Francisco take place?
It was before.
Well, so you leave Union Station and you said you went out to San Diego.
But I went out before, too.
Okay. So tell me, when were you in San Francisco for?
I went out there to check the Navy out before.
So you had been away from kids.
Yeah. Yeah, but I forgot about that. Yeah.
How long were you in San Francisco?
Oh, 2 weeks.
2 weeks in San Francisco. So who did you go out to San Francisco with?
Myself.
And you said that the first time you were on a plane was.
It was. I had been on before, but you've been on there with all those people.
I'm breaking them down. I'm getting the inconsistencies. I'm getting to the bottom of this fucking story of San Francisco. So you're in San Francisco for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone there?
Not really.
So why did you why didn't you go to San Diego to check it out? Why did you go to San Francisco?
I wanted to go to San Francisco. I knew I was going to go to San Diego.
So you're going to San Francisco, it sounds like, because I asked you earlier if you did anything before to kind of let your hair down, no pun intended, or have some fun, but it sounds like you went out to San Francisco. So you just picked, I feel like I'm not getting the story here.
You are getting
You just picked San Francisco.
Yeah.
So you go to San Francisco, and then what do you do? So you land here I am, I'm in San Francisco, so then what? Where do you go? You don't know anybody.
Going around and to the parties and whatnot, and
how do you know where the you just show up and
it was everywhere.
So was this the Tenderloin District?
That's correct. And it was tender too.
Okay, so you show up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And how old? You're 17.
Yeah. And
you got nothing tying you down.
No.
And at this point, you're considering going in the Army, or have you signed up?
I already signed up.
So hey, let's go. Let's get after it for a couple. This is what I wanted. This is why I finally got break down these barriers, and I'm gonna get the story here. So you're in San Francisco. You got 2 weeks, right? Did you know you had 2 weeks, or is that just did you go out there with the idea?
2 weeks all I had.
Okay, so you knew you had 2 weeks, so it was a finite time. And so describe the Tenderloin District to someone who would.
It was raunchy and
this is the 60s.
Bars, any kind of bars you wanted, strippers.
What kind of bars did you want?
Well, I mean,
honest. Be honest.
There's some things I can't say on here, but
you were looking to get after it. You were looking to have some fun. I mean, you're a 17-year-old man about ready to go into the Navy, and you're in San Francisco, and you've got 2 weeks. Let's see what we can get done here. Did you have a hotel room? Did you have someplace you were staying?
Yeah, I got a hotel room. They was cheap.
Do you remember the hotel?
No.
Okay, so you're in the hotel room.
It's about $15, $20 a night.
Were you ever actually in the hotel? Did you ever sleep in the hotel?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the Tenderloin District, bars and everything else, right? Now, you tell me about this, but you give very little detail. Try to give me as much detail about the first time you meet Janis Joplin. And this is no fucking joke. People, did your dad really know Janis Joplin? Did you really know Janis Joplin?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, how famous was she at this point?
She was pretty famous. I mean, to look at her, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but to look at her, she kind of looked like a skank.
Well,
I mean, you wouldn't take her home. I mean, she had more hair up under her arms than I had on my head at that time. But she was a good singer, and she packed those joints. I mean, at that time, she was playing in different regular joints.
she didn't look like a superstar.
No, not at all.
Like if she was just in a bar, you wouldn't think, oh, she's famous.
Not at all. Not unless you heard her sing.
Right. So the first time you tell me the first time you see her in person, is she performing?
Yeah, she's performing.
So did you know is that where you, hey, Janis Joplin's playing at this show, I'm going to go see her. Did you know that?
No.
Or did you just stumble into a place
just,
where
just walked in a place?
So you walk in and she's up on stage singing?
Mm-hmm.
And did you know who it was right away?
Yeah, I knew who she was.
And so then you see her, and then what? Because I mean, fuck, that's one of the greatest female voices ever.
It is.
And you're talking
She
about,
was a good singer.
and this is the thing about you. I don't think you grasp how fucking awesome that is. When people hear like, wow, like her, I still listen to her music to this day. She's a legend.
Yeah, she is.
My God, when I was a kid, did my mom fucking hate her, and I never knew why. You know, something would be on TV, and she's look how dirty she looks. That bitch. Like,
She was right.
But I'm just like, it's, I don't know why. Boy, this sounds personal.
Yeah.
And then turn that station. I hate and I never knew.
Yeah.
It was because she knew about this. I was like, man, Mom really doesn't like this music. It's great.
Yeah,
I love this music. So you see her on stage. She's performing at do you remember the bar?
I don't.
Okay.
I really don't.
So
There was too many of them.
Right. Well, boy, that sounds like it. So you're there. So then how do you meet her? How do you, because there's a lot, I'm sure there's a lot of people trying to talk to her.
When she came down off stage, there was tables sitting, and I was sitting on one of the tables, and she came and sat down. There was other people around, too, and then she was a very nice person. Would ask you, where you from, and...
So she talked to you first?
Yeah, no, but she talked to me, and then I figured, if I got to nail anybody, I'd probably want to nail her.
Hi, Ben, how are you? I'm just in here talking to my dad about nailing Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
But at this point, are you nervous about that? You're like, oh, this is Janis Joplin. So let's try to unpack this a little bit. So you're talking to her, right?
Yes.
And so does she make it known, or she's interested in you? Are you hitting on her? Like what's going on here?
I just figured, that why wouldn't she be interested in me? I mean, I'm interested in her.
Look at you, right?
Just, not necessarily that.
But yeah, you're
look
young.
At all these yahoos around her, I mean, shit.
You probably, I have seen pictures.
I was a pick of the litter at that point.
Well,
of course.
Is that more a comment on you or the litter that was?
Well, probably the litter.
Okay, so what's going on? Right, I don't know. And so you're talking to her. Do you remember the line you used, or what you said to her, or how you I mean,
No, just talk.
You had to have some game.
Talked and drank, and she's smoking that stuff,
Right. Well.
So I figured.
So then you don't have to get into the graphic details of the actual. But so then what? So on that night, did you leave with her?
That night. Yeah.
Where did you go? Did you go back to the hotel you had?
That's correct.
You told me about a car that she drove.
Yeah, she had a Porsche.
Right.
Porsche.
Did you ride in her Porsche?
No.
Okay.
No,
did you see it? It was like, I think you said it was like a pink Porsche or something.
Porsche.
And so you talked to her. Do you remember like what was said when did you say, hey, let's get out of here, or like let's go?
Yeah, let's
And she was
stay there any night she wants.
And she was on board right then.
Oh yeah.
What are you fucking thinking then? You're taking Janis Joplin. You had no reaction to any of this shit.
I wanted to tag her, and I wasn't thinking anything other than, let's get it.
All right. So you took her back to the hotel.
Yeah.
Was this a one-time thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then
I didn't really go back to that bar anymore. I mean, it was just one of those things. And I don't even know whether she played that bar anymore,
Right.
But I was just going to be there 2 weeks, and this was like going into the second week. So,
Did you ever see her again after that night?
Mm-hmm.
Did it live up to your expectations?
I've had better.
Well, okay. Singers or no? Okay,
in general.
fine. Right. Thank you. So like at the time, like now when we're talking about this is an unbelievable story. At the time, did you realize like this is what's happening?
Not really. I just figured, hey, I'm picking up this gal, and yeah, she sings good.
Did she sing to you at all? Did you make her sing?
No, I made her hum.
Well, Hot Mic with SSJ hopefully is brought to you by someone after this episode, but here we are. And so then that happens, and you part ways, and then you said you got a few more days left in San Francisco. That was probably the peak of your experience in San Francisco.
The rest was just partying.
Right. And so you partied, so then you get out of there, you go back to Kansas City, and then how much time before you go to San Diego?
Probably a few days.
Okay, so you go to and I'm going to tell you, if there's not some Janis Joplin played later in post-production, there's a serious problem with everyone here. And so then so let's fast forward back to San Diego and basic training, and then the leave, you stay in San Diego.
I did. I stayed in San Diego because I had no reason to go home.
Did you want to go back to San Francisco and find Janis Joplin again?
Maybe.
You want to go find Mama Cass? Like, who else was out there for you? So you're there. So then take me to the point when you're leaving San Diego. When you're shipping out.
We were there probably about another week after we stayed out there, because they was assigning people their orders to go, and I got my orders to go to ship out from San Diego, which I did. I went on the USS Iwo Jima LPH-2, a helicopter carrier, which carried 500 Marines and 500 crew.
Okay,
and it took off out of San Diego.
And so you leave, and so this was. Do you remember exactly what year it was, or how old were you? Were you still 17? Did you turn 18? Okay, so 69. Hey, 69, and so that's a big year for everyone. And so you leave, and then
wasn't for me and Janis, trust me.
So then what? So then you take me to that day when you're getting on the ship and everything.
It was different, when we're pulling out of the harbor. You got, most people had families, and when you leave, you leave for almost a year at a time. So these, families, wives with kids, and
waving the handkerchief and waving goodbye and everyone
waving, I love you. And
were you waving at anyone, or just,
Yeah, one guy, I think we was gone about a month, and he, my wife is running around. I said, well, shit, she was dancing to somebody with dancing anchors away. What the fuck did you expect? You hadn't even got out of the harbor yet.
So you're on the ship.
Yeah.
What's going through and you're still 17?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What's going through your mind that you're leaving, and now do you know how long you're going to be gone for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How long were you going to be gone?
A year, about that.
At that point, what are you thinking? Is it just like,
I just knew that I was going to see some things, and things would get real pretty shortly, and it just, first, there's stops that you make. First stop is Hawaii, second stop is Okinawa, and then
did you get laid in Hawaii? It's the flowers.
That was a place where they call Lakanuki.
Okay.
So you didn't get much.
And here we go again. So you're Hawaii, and then after Hawaii,
Okinawa,
and then where?
Philippines,
and then where? And so how long? Roughly, how long is all this taking to make all these stops?
6 months or so many weeks.
So you're just making stops, since you really haven't seen anything too bad or anything up to this point?
Up, artillery and helicopters and shit.
So what's life like up to this point when you're making these stops, like the average day on the ship?
You get up and eat, and then you work on the ship or
What did you do? What was your job on the
ship? They had me doing all kinds of stuff. I worked with air conditioning. I helped in the helicopter and the air section. I did everything. I actually got to do a lot of things.
A lot of maintenance with everything, and
yeah.
And it's. I mean, I don't think we can, unless you've been on it or seen it, you can't get a really accurate idea of how gigantic this is. You're on a floating city.
You could watch a movie at night. They ride out in the hangar, and
movies they were shown in the theaters in the United States, or like old movies,
probably older movies.
Okay, so you guys would go out there and watch movies and for rec time.
And then we get 500 Marines on board. I think we picked them up in Okinawa, And that was another deal, where you got 500 Marines and 500 Navy guys.
Did you guys get along?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I always got along with them because I knew where they was going and what they were going to do. We were taking them to Vietnam, and
they were going to fight.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, nothing against the Marine Corps. Please believe that. But a lot of them were like 10 feet tall and bulletproof. It's like everything else, they build you up that nobody can stop you and all that.
That's what they have to do, right?
And the Viet Cong's got guns as well. I mean, it was a sad thing because a lot of guys would take over there and bring them back in a body bag, but Marines were tough and trained, and they could beat anybody at anything. It just, man, there's so many of those Viet Cong. Jesus
right. But
Christ.
I mean, that's what happens in war,
But when we would bring them back on board, it was really sad because they'd be in a body bag, and you put them in the freezer just like a piece of meat. I mean, but that's what you had to do at that time, and that's always bothered me too. When I would think about the guys when they come on the ship, and even become friends with some of them, and the next thing you know, maybe that same guy comes back in a body bag.
Okay, so, and you've briefly told me about this, and this is, and if it's too hard for you to talk about, tell me, and we can change the subject. But I did want to ask you about this because, like you said, this has been hard for you, and this is something that's bothered you for the majority of your life, right? So you make those stops. And so then tell me, after you get through, like you said, Hawaii and the Philippines and everything else, when it started to get real, when you started to.
Well, I like to reference to this. I think it was in the Philippines. I know it wasn't Oklahoma. I think it was Philippines, where they had a chaplain. His name was Chaplain Freisted. Again, I remember stuff 50 years ago and can't remember what I ate for breakfast. And he'd get a volunteer crew of people to go up in the mountains, in the Luzon Mountains in the Philippines.
You're right up on the mic.
In the Philippines and build a school or something or help,
Right.
And when we've done that, I've gone with them to do that. And matter of fact, we lost one helicopter up in the mountains, and we had to they had everybody get on board a second helicopter with M16s and flamethrowers. I'm going, what the hell? We're not in Vietnam yet. And we had to fly up there because his helicopter had went down in the mountains, and there was every type of people in the Philippines. I mean, they pull over a bus and kill everybody on it. So it was a real danger to let that that everybody was okay when it was a crash landing. But we had to go up there and get everybody on this helicopter.
Were you scared then when you're on this helicopter?
Well, I mean, yeah. I thought, well, maybe I'll get to shoot somebody or something. But we doused that helicopter with flamethrowers and burned it all. I'm going, what's this for? We can't get it out. We're not going to let them get it. So we burned it up and took off. And I'm going, wow, is this the way it's going to be? Well, when we got to Da Nang and Cam Ranh Bay to offload a lot of the Marines, it did get reeled in, because then I thought, here, a month ago we're flying in, building churches and stuff, and now we're flying in to burn shit down. So it's like.
So you get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what do? You said you're dropping off Marines, and then what are you doing during this time on the ship?
Well, a lot of times I'd fly in with them because they would let me do that, because I used to fly in and get the mail with them and stuff. But we'd offload the Marines, take them to where they needed to go, and
that's very dangerous. You're in there, you're flying back and forth and everything.
And then the ship where we would anchor out, we'd shoot all night long, at the targets.
Right.
Those big guns. I mean, we'd all night long just shoot. And, it got reeled in.
How long did this go on for?
Oh, months.
And so you described, and you said this has bothered you, and obviously it's if it's too hard to talk about, just let me know. when you would drop off Marines, but then you'd have to pick them up.
Yeah.
After they had lost their life, right?
Yeah.
So in your mind, it may not have been the same Marines, right?
No.
But in your mind, you're thinking maybe those guys you became friends with, an A-Marine, and you're bringing them back. So take me through what that experience was like, and what your role in that was, and how you.
It was a very sad time when you bring anybody in that's dead, and they're in a bag, and you got to put them in the freezer, and it's a sad thing, and they always say, Marines and Navy don't get along. Well, that's not true at all, because I made some good friends out of Marines that were on our ship, and they, real good guys and tough guys, and So,
were you actually one of the ones that had to help with the bodies, loading the bodies?
Yeah.
What would you have to do?
Put them on the helicopter and take them in the freezer.
And how hard was that for you?
Very hard. It was hard. Yeah, it was very hard.
And so, how long did this? For months you did this?
A few months.
How do you? Mentally, how do you? I don't even know what to ask. How do you do that?
There's nothing mentally to it. You just got to do it. And
right.
There's no, hey, do you want to do this? Can I get you to volunteer? You just got to do it.
But at night, I assume you'd go to sleep at some point, or I don't imagine you'd sleep very well. But when you did have time to yourself alone,
sure.
How difficult was that?
Very difficult. I think about it today.
Like what goes through your mind? Just, even now, what you saw, things
guys
you saw
in the locker, and it just, those guys were good guys, and they just, put their heart out there to, and what really bothered me a lot, I guess, when we came home, we had to shovel. There were a lot of helicopters and equipment over there that had to be dumped in the ocean,
right?
Because you didn't want them to get none of it. And then when we would get back, at the end, and people would just treat you like shit, and that really bothered you, because you think you've seen these young, and treat me like shit too. It just wasn't the Marines.
After you get back to the United States, right?
These guys, you've seen them when they come over and they're gun ho, ready to go, and then they die, and these people act like this. The hell's the matter with you? But that's the same ones that never been anywhere, never protected anybody, and ain't going to. So,
And that did bother you. That did hurt you, because you went out there and you sacrificed, and you saw, others make the ultimate sacrifice, and they're not getting the respect that they deserved when they came home.
Yeah.
But so, like you said, you still go through this now. But you go to the VA, right?
I do.
And I know that you always have wonderful things to say about the care.
VA's the best.
They provide you, right?
Yeah.
Because not everyone says that, but you do, and here in Kansas City, and PTSD. You've had a lot of struggles, but you feel. They're there for you. I got
Dr. DeMarc. I had another call me today because I got an appointment Monday, and I'm going to be out of town. They always are reaching out, trying to see if you need anything. I give them 100%. They're really good.
And so, what are some of the things you struggle with now? Do you have flashbacks? Do you have nightmares about it? What are some of the things you battle now?
Not all the time, but I try to think of positive things, like me and Vicky's going up to Washington D.C. to see the wall and stuff like that, but even today, I hear a name or something that I went to school with, and they died over there. And still today,
it's hard for you.
I find stuff out like that,
right?
And it's sad, but it's just a sad thing for the thanks that we got. Period. And then I think about these kids nowadays. Iran, Iraq. Here, they're spraying and shooting stuff that they'll never know what it is. I got Agent Orange. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know I had Agent Orange until they finally did some tests and told me I had it. But what about these kids in Iraq and Iran and all that shit? They don't know what those bastards sprayed.
And so what did that do to you, like physically? You said you didn't know that you were affected by that. Did they
give me diabetes?
Right.
Give me a heart attack. Before I even got home from the hospital, the heart attack, they said, this is caused by Agent Orange. Right. They know. They knew for a long time.
But you're getting the treatment that you need now.
Absolutely, 100% treated. Sure.
And so going back to when you were there, so then how long? So this is all 1969 when you sold
70.
And so when were you finally done?
71.
And so how did that? Was it up to you to say you were done? Did you serve? Like what? How does that?
Yeah, I was done as like a contract. It was like 3 years. So, and a lot of guys, if they didn't want to come home, when your ship's coming home, you could actually find somebody on another ship that's just going over there and transfer.
So at that point, did you want to come home?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'd seen enough.
Was it you decided? Was there anything? We talked about so many things now. Was there an incident that happened or anything that happened said, you know what, this is too much for me? Or was it just a cumulative effect that all the things happened, you would just...
Everything in general, and the young lives that were lost, and, it's just, you think now for what, but
right.
Hey, still, if things were like that now, I'd still go back. And every guy that you talk to would say the same thing.
That's the question I was just getting ready to ask
yeah.
you. Now looking back, knowing what you know now, what you went through, the physical problems that you've had, the issues you've had, mentally what it put you through, would you do it all over again?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, no question.
And why?
Just because I'm here for the United States, and the United States have done way more for me than I've done for them. It's just the way it is. I mean, if you're going to live for something, you'll die for nothing. I mean, the fact of the matter is, look at all these other countries. They treat their population like crap. And look at us. I mean, we got everything there is. You can do anything you want here. I mean, you can make as much money you want.
You've proven that over the years, haven't you?
Yeah, that's no shit. Well, within reason.
Right. Well,
yeah,
I feel like you've done everything.
But I mean, even with my history, what's gone down in my life, it's still choices that I've made, not somebody else.
Nobody forced you to do those things. That was what you wanted to do.
And right now, I tell my wife all the time, I said, God damn it, if they had a war right now, I'm ready to go. You're too old. I said,
right.
Well, whatever.
I think we need to probably stand.
But I would be ready to go.
I know that you would, but I'd like you to not.
Yeah.
I'd be afraid for the other people.
Yeah.
And so you came home, and so we'll kind of leave it. We'll end it with this. But so you were 20 years old.
Yes.
When you come back, and so take me back how so they brought you back on the ship, and so tell me, I think this is April of
I don't know when it
Apollo
was.
13.
Yeah,
we haven't
Apollo
told.
13,
I want you to tell me the story, and that's going to be the last story that we tell.
Apollo 13 was landed right off the coast of Hawaii, and we had picked up Apollo 13. I don't remember when it was, but it was an aborted mission where they almost lost the Apollo 13, but they was able to patch things up and land, and our ship is the only one that picked it up and brought them aboard.
And was this when you're on your way back when you were done, or what part?
On the way over.
Okay, so on the way over, because we're kind of rewinding here.
And the fact of the matter is, there's only 2 ships in the Navy that can pick those Apollos up. And that was USS Iwo Jima, LPH-2.
Well, this is April 1970 when this happens.
Yeah.
So this would have been on your way back. Well, no, on your way in the middle.
We'd come back and
go back and forth.
Back and forth.
Okay, so then you're going back, and so what? Like this is something irregular.
Yeah.
What are you hearing on the ship that's happening with Apollo 13? Did you know about it? Did you?
Yeah. We knew that they was having problems. I forget what it was, but they ironed it out and got it fixed. And they landed off the coast of Hawaii, and we picked them up. When I say we, it was skin divers and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, there's only 2 ships that can pick them up: USS Iwo Jima, LPH-2, or the USS New Orleans, LPH-2. That's the only 2 ships that could do it.
You were on the fucking ship that picked up Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Like what? So where are you at when you do? Are you able to see all this stuff?
Yeah,
Did you see
could see them. You could see them.
Like I'm looking at a picture right here of
that's on the ship.
Astronauts when they're on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Did you talk to them? Did you like me? Like what? Like where are you with all this is going on?
And we had hats that said Apollo 13, USS Iwo Jima.
Like, were you? I mean, do you like? Did you realize what a big deal this was while it was going on? I mean, obviously you're in the middle of war and everything else, but I mean, fuck.
Yeah. You don't think about it till later on.
So you see everything else and you pick them up, and so what happened to the hat?
I'll look for it for you.
Right. So what else do you remember about that? I mean, that's a huge piece of history.
I mean, it was for higher up echelon, but we got to see them and shake their hand.
So you were a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then I want to end up when you come back home. All right. Mm-hmm. And so when were you done? When did you get out? So this have been.
It was in 1971.
Okay. So you come home and they take you back to San Diego?
Yeah, San Diego.
So you get back to San Diego, then you're off the ship. Mm-hmm. Had you been, since you first left, had you been back to San Diego? So
no.
you kind of went. So you get to San Diego, then what happens?
I was going to stay there, but
Okay, so you get back. Do you have to do anything else, or what do they do to discharge you?
Yeah, about a week or 2-3 weeks. Just stay on the base.
Okay, and so you think I'm going to stay in San Diego, but then why didn't you?
Didn't.
Because you didn't seem eager to go back to Kansas City like for your leave or whatever else. What made you go back to Kansas City? This is kind of important because if you don't make this decision, then I'm not here doing this fucking podcast.
Right,
so was there any was there any reason just okay? I'm gonna go back to Kansas City, right? And so you end up going back to Kansas City, and you mentioned your sister Mary.
Yeah.
Your sister Mary correct me when I'm wrong here. Your sister Mary has a welcome home party for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Her husband is named Danny Ontiveros.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's Mary Ontiveros.
Yes.
Mary St. John,
Yes.
Mary Ontiveros. They have a party for you. It was at the same house that he still lives in now?
1018 Elmwood.
1018. So in Northeast, they have a welcome home. Was it right after you got back? Right like first, whatever?
About a few weeks.
So this is a welcome home party for you?
Yeah.
There's a big party, a bunch of people there?
Family.
You're 20 years old. And so your sister and your brother-in-law, Danny, have a welcome home party for you. Here you are. And then there's a 33-year-old beautiful Mexican woman, Danny's sister, that's single.
Yeah.
You meet her at the party.
Yes.
Did they plan this? Were they trying to set you up, or you just there and you see her?
I don't know. I seen her. That was it.
So what happened? Did you
met her and I started going out with her and.
But did you? I've never asked this. So who asked who out first?
Me.
So you go up to her and you say, "Hey,
yeah,
I just got out of the Navy."
Let's make little Stevie.
Wow, unbelievable. All right, so you take her out, you go out with her, and I mean, like, you ain't kidding.
No,
like
she was gorgeous. She was probably the prettiest woman I ever seen at that time.
She worked at she was a waitress at the Playboy Club. A lot of people don't.
She was a knockout.
So, but I mean, right away you guys started dating.
Yeah.
And you kid about that, but right away she becomes pregnant with me.
Yeah.
And then you guys went to
Miami, Oklahoma, JJ Sweetenham
to get married.
Yeah.
And so, was that by choice? Or were you encouraged by anyone?
I'm gonna be honest with you. You want to be honest?
Yes.
We can be honest.
Well, that's why you're here.
We're in Miami, Oklahoma, because I took a friend of mine, Jim Bates and Sandy Bates.
Right.
I took them up to get married.
Right.
And all the way up there, your mom said, we ought to get married too.
Okay, so is she pregnant? Does she know she's pregnant with me?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you don't
know.
Okay,
no,
all right.
I don't think so.
I'm trying to. Okay.
I think we ought to get married. I said, well, I'm kind of on the fence because I haven't been home long enough to make any big decisions.
And you're 20.
I'm 20. So I knew about your grandfather, and that wasn't a good taste, because...
What is that?
Well, he just was always known as a mean guy, and...
So Danny Ontiveros Sr., a very powerful man in Kansas City, Kansas, and let's be honest, someone that if there's a list of people you want to fuck with, he's last.
He's not,
right.
He's not on the list.
Right, he's not on the list,
yeah,
all right.
And so, anyway, she, we got motel rooms, and we was going to take them to get married the next day. And all night long, I think we ought to get married, and and I'm not saying I didn't want to.
Right.
It's not because I didn't love her.
But she's got the full court press on.
Yeah,
she's right.
And she said, are we going to get married or not? I said, not at this point, I don't think. And
Let's take it slow. I'm just back from the Navy.
At that point, she gets ready to walk out the door. I said, "Where you going?" She said, "I'm telling my dad."
Oh shit!
I said, "What?" Yeah, she said, "I'm gonna let my dad, Danny, know."
Right.
I said, "Well, if you put it that way, yeah, we can probably get married. No problem." And I'm not saying I got married because I was pressured. She's beautiful. There's every reason to get married. I just wasn't ready, but Danny helped me get ready, I guess.
Okay, but can you give me a little bit of insight to that about my grandfather, Danny Ontiveros? You're describing is like you don't want to piss him off. Like, what did you know about him at this point?
When you look at a picture of him, he's got like a mean grin, and he had a bail bonding company, and it wasn't a nice picture when he had to come after you.
Right.
I knew all this stuff. I mean, I wasn't scared of anybody, but I had to think about him.
He was a part of the owner of Danny and Paul Bonding in downtown KCK.
Yeah, Danny and Paul Bonding, that's
right?
correct.
And so you knew enough because your sister had married his son. And so that's the weird thing. Like they had a son named Tony, who's my cousin, and we tell people we're double cousins. Well, what's that mean? My mom married his dad, and his dad married my mom.
Correct.
And
double
then
cousins.
and then as we've tried to explain to my daughters, if you remember the other night, one of my daughters said, that sounds illegal. And we've tried, not.
Nobody's walking around cross-eyed or nothing. I mean, come on. It's double cousins.
So then you got married then.
Wait a minute.
Stop.
You do have some side effects.
I kind of do. So, so then you got married then.
Yes, I did.
And then you go back and then
I was
everything.
Happy ever after.
Right. And so then not too much longer later than you had me.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, but you were, and that's what it's amazing. You were 20. My mom was 33, and that's why, like, you're born in 1952. I was born in 1972.
Yeah.
Were you you went from, I just got home from the war. I'm 20 years old. Now I got a wife, and now I got this fucking guy coming.
Jumped out of the pan in the fire.
What did you think? So how did that happen? So when you had me, were you like, oh shit! Stuff got real.
We was happy, and she was a really, really, really good mom. I didn't have to, do nothing.
And so I want to wrap up, Dad, just because you said some very nice things about the VA, and I think that's a great point that you make. That when you came home, you weren't well received. That's bothered you for a long time. But now when I talk to you, talk about all the great things the VA does for you, other people that made huge sacrifices that are still dealing with the after effects to this day. And so now, again, you said you do it all over again. What are some of the things that you deal with now, and how does the VA help you and show you that you're appreciated and you're supported? Because I think that's very important.
Any problem I have, I just call VA, and they'll hook me up with whoever I need.
And what would you say to a member of the military that's out there that's
if you're thinking about hurting yourself, forget about it.
Right.
Just go to VA and they will help you.
But and even to this day, like you said,
they're wonderful.
You go back, you do it all over again.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'll tell you this one thing for sure. I mean, I hope you take this and understand this. I mean, sometimes when I hear you, I'm in awe of you and things that you have done. I could never fucking have the courage to do.
That's not true.
Well,
but go ahead.
Yeah, but because I consider you a hero, and a lot of people do. And so, no, seriously, because, and then here you are, and you've been through all these things, and you've made a big sacrifice for the country. And so, thank you on behalf of everyone, and I love you.
And I'm headed to Italian Gardens for lunch, the best deli around, and I'm going to see Carl DiCapo, which is the mainstay, and John David.
Yeah.
So come on down and I'll buy your lunch.
I tell you what, if you don't get a fucking free lunch out of that, then Mr. DiCapo, please take care of business. That has been Hot Mike with SSJ. Thank you for listening. Be sure
Thank you, guys. We love you.
Like and subscribe on YouTube and download the podcast wherever you download your favorite podcast. The microphone is off.